All right, Chris, thank you. A Kentucky woman is behind bars charged with fetal homicide after police say she took abortion pills. An arrest citation says 35-year-old Melinda Spencer told officers she took the pills because the baby wasn't her boyfriend's. The abortion pill is illegal in Kentucky as the state has a near total abortion ban.
Tonight, WKYT's Samantha Valentino is speaking with those on both sides of the issue.
Melinda Spencer is charged with fetal homicide, abuse of a corpse, and evidence tampering. Kentucky State Police say she admitted to taking abortion pills she ordered online, then placing the fetus in a light bulb box and burying it in her backyard. Court records show Spencer went to a clinic in Campton and told them she had a medical abortion. That clinic then called police. Spencer's arrest comes as Kentucky has a near total abortion ban since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022 and the Commonwealth's trigger law took effect. The only time abortion is allowed is when a doctor deems it necessary to prevent death or serious injury to the pregnant person.
This is a really terrifying reality.
Angela Cooper with the ACLU of Kentucky says reading the definitions and exception statute of the KRS covering fetal homicide, she's confused as to why Spencer is facing the charge.
And that exception specifically says that nothing in the chapter applies to a person who has taken action that causes the death of their unborn child, and it seems to be written specifically for like a self-managed abortion.
Cooper says research shows abortion bans don't stop abortions, they only stop safe and legal ones. She also says Kentucky's near total abortion ban is harming people who miscarry because they're scared to seek medical care out of fear they'll be criminally charged.
You have people who are suffering very severe medical consequences, up to and including the loss of their fertility, because they're afraid to talk to their doctors about what's going on.
Kentucky Right to Life Executive Director Adia Wishner says Spencer's case highlights a need to strengthen laws against bringing the abortion pill into Kentucky.
Something that we're working on and working with legislators, the illegal trafficking of these medications, the fact that she would get the medication without wraparound medical services. The fact that they're being trafficked and sold online.
Wishner says Spencer's arrest underscores a need for Kentucky Right to Life to inform pregnant people of the resources available to them.
We have to find a better way to bombard them with messages that make sure that they know the truth about themselves. They know that their support is out there should they find themselves with an unplanned pregnancy.
Wishner calls Spencer's situation devastating.
She was on her own, and that's probably the greatest tragedy. And the other tragedy, of course, is that a child's life was lost.
In Frankfort, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
And to hear more from both Right to Life and the ACLU, you can head to this story inside our WKYT News app.